Hi friends, it's me, Kate, and I am coming to you from my home studio as per usual. It is a little chilly here right now. We had a really nice day yesterday, I think, but it's dipping back closer to 50 degrees, which I know, depending on what time of year you are watching this, maybe 50 degrees sounds wonderful. But today it's gloomy, it's chilly, so I thought that we could do some balancing practices. So we'll do this one, which is going to be about 20 to 30 minutes, and then I think I'm going to film a more vigorous, full form balance practice as well. So if you're not looking for something super fiery, today's class is going to be really nice for you. We're going to build some core strength and focus on what maybe you need to progress into a full balancing practice versus actually doing lots of balances. We'll test our balance, but it'll be nice and low-key for this class. In terms of props, I think you're going to want to have blocks and maybe a blanket because we will be doing some kneeling. So if you know you have sensitive knees, you want to make sure that you can cushion them enough so that your poses don't feel excruciating, they just feel challenging, right? So I think all that being said, we can get started. As always, I like to start with seated meditation. So whatever works for you is fine, whether you want to sit up, lay down, something in between. I like to sit up on 2 blocks so that I'm on the medium height and I have the space to feel where my pelvis is tilting. So a lot of balance is tied to proprioception, or knowing where your body is in space. And one of the ways that we can do that is by noticing where our body is coming in contact with either the floor or a prop, and then trying to orient the pelvis in a way that is neutral. So that might require a little bit of effort to make a correction if you have a tendency to dump forwards or dump back. You want to find something right in the middle. I can feel my hip flexors are tight, so I keep dumping forward. So I have to make constant adjustments. And we'll find that theme throughout practice today. So then once you have your pelvis oriented in a neutral position, we'll take the shoulders, make sure they're sitting right above the hips. Try to relax them down. Take some deep breaths all the way in, all the way out. Clear out any stagnant air. And allow your breath to become neutral. So we're not trying to make it anything it isn't already. Noticing where the inhales feel restricted. Noticing where the exhales feel like you can't quite get all the air out. If your mind wanders off, just bring it back to this moment and this place. couple more breaths here. And then when you feel ready from wherever you are, inhale, find a stretch. Excuse me, of whatever you can find. You stretch through the arms. Spread nice and wide. Find a stretch across the chest, across the front of the bicep. And we will come onto hands and knees and get oriented with where our body is in space today. So I'm going to move my blocks out of the way. I'm going to keep my socks on, I think, for this because it is a little chilly in here. But we're going to put our hands right underneath our shoulders, knees right underneath the hips, and take a couple deep breaths here. So big inhale. Exhale, lift the spine, tuck the chin, tuck the tailbone. Inhale and open. Finding length through the spine, reaching with your heart forwards towards the top of your mat. Exhale and curl. Inhale and open. Exhale and curl. Inhale and open. All right, so from here, we're going to start testing our balance. So pressing down firmly on your hands, we're going to take a big inhale and reach back with the right leg. So we're going to flex the foot and turn the toes down towards the floor. So there's a tendency sometimes to flag the leg out, turning out the toes. We want to keep them pointing straight down towards the floor. So you can even look down behind you to make sure that they're pointing straight down. Take a couple breaths here. Make sure you're still holding on to your low ribs. And if you'd like, you can investigate a little bit more balance by inhale, reaching up with the left arm, the opposite arm. You can hold on to something, placing the hand back down, taking a big breath here, and releasing both limbs back down to the floor. So this is where if you have a tendency to get sensitive knees, you can put a little cushion under there. So we'll do the other side. So this time, making sure our hands are both underneath our shoulders. We're going to press down into the top of the right foot and extend back through the left leg. And then make sure left toes pointing straight down towards the floor. And we're keeping both hips even with the floor. So we're not lifting left hip up. We're keeping it even and level. 2 more big inhales here. Keeping the low ribs in, so there's a tendency to want to sag into the shoulders, sag into the belly, so lifting up. And then if you can, we'll investigate lifting the right arm up this time. So we're building strength and balance. So this action going across the midline, this balance here, very good for our brain. And then we'll release both limbs down. We'll do 2 cat extended cats. Inhaling and opening. Exhaling and curling. And then we'll relax back to child's pose just for a moment, giving our shoulders a break. So bring your hands back behind you, palm face up. You can shift from side to side if that helps. Then we'll bring the hands back up underneath the shoulders. And we'll try that again. So this time, right leg reaching back. And if you can, right away, working to lift left arm. Okay, so now you can stay here or try to bring both limbs out to the side. So out to the opposite sides a little bit. See how that changes the balance challenge. You can bring them back to center and then try and draw small circles with your limbs in one direction and then the other. See how that makes a difference? And then hold steady and release back to neutral. And we'll do the other side. So this time left leg is extending, right arm is extending, and either staying here or bringing both limbs out to the side, seeing how that changes your pose, trying to feel all of the fingers down on your mat with your left hand and pressing into the top of the foot with your right foot. And then coming back to neutral and then doing circles. First in one direction and then the other. And then releasing back to neutral. Do 2 more cat extended cats. Curling, lifting, curling, and lifting, and releasing back to child's pose. Couple breaths all the way in, all the way out. Relaxing through the shoulders one more time, all the way in, all the way out. All right, so now to work with a little bit more balance, we're going to come back to hands and knees. And this time, right foot is going to come up in between the hands. So we're going to work with a little bit of flexibility. We're going to reach with the right foot forwards. If you'd like, you can take 2 blocks and bring them up on either side of your front foot. Big inhale, big exhale. So we're slowly working towards a low lunge. You can come in and out of the pose, trying to ease open your hips, ease open the body, keeping both hips coming forwards at the same rate. So left and right, both coming towards the top of your mat. Right hip is not reaching any further than the left. Then for a stretch, we're going to bring the hands back closer towards our knee that's down on the mat and work towards a forward fold, flexing the front foot. So we're coming into Ardha Hanumanasana, or half splits pose. And for me, I'm pretty tight today, so I'm staying up nice and high. But you can adjust wherever you need to. I like to keep my hips stacked over my back knee. Some people like to sit down on their ankle behind them. I find that sitting up gives me a little bit more of a challenge. And then we'll shift back to our low lunge. See what we can see here. Lift through the chest, drop your tailbone straight down. And we're going to move our blocks out of the way. Come back to cat extended cat. Inhaling and opening. Exhaling and curling. Inhaling and opening. Exhaling and curling. And then we'll inhale, bring the left foot forwards. We're going to investigate the same thing. So we're working towards coming into a low lunge over the front leg. Nice and easy, both hips coming forward at the same rate. So we're keeping them parallel. See? So one is not reaching more forward than the other. Couple more breaths here. And then we're going to shift our weight back, bringing our blocks with us, flexing the front foot, and maybe even just imagining coming forward. So the simple action of straightening the leg can be a lot of work, but we're going to meet ourselves where we're at, finding the stretch. And then we'll shift the weight forwards, move the blocks out of the way, hands down, and step back either to downward facing dog if you want a little bit more motion, or just to cat extended cat. So moving from tabletop. And then from here, right foot comes forward one more time. And we're going to start to move towards a little bit more balance. So we're going to pick our hands up off the floor, and they can either come directly onto our knee, if that's comfortable there, or we'll start to work with a little bit more balance, which once we get there, I'm going to investigate our low lunge again. I have a sensitive hip today, so I'm trying to be mindful of that. Try not to overstretch. Finding just where my edge is. Then once I get there, if I'm not having too much trouble with keeping my hand on my knee, I can bring the hands together, lift them up towards the ceiling, finding a little bit more of a stretch, a little bit more height, which changes our balance. One more big inhale here. Exhale, release, hands down, switch sides. Nice, good. So then from here, left foot comes forward, in between the hands, same thing. So we're slowly going to come up. Maybe we can bring our hands to our knees. As always, if you struggle with balance, keep your blocks handy or whatever other props you want. Maybe a chair, or you can do this next to a wall. We're just trying to find space for ourselves. And then once you find your stretch, find your balance, keep the low ribs in, but know that you have the ability to adjust your balance. Try to keep all points of the foot down, but know that you can roll just to catch your balance, but then we're trying to find neutral again, right? Balance is movement. Then we can press the hands together, lift them up. Deep breaths, all the way in, all the way out. Hands come down. Step back either to downward facing dog or child's pose or tabletop for cat extended cat. So find whatever variation works for you. And we're going to do one more of those with an added variation, so we can test our balance. So when you're ready, right foot is coming forwards once again. We'll inhale, bring the hands up to the knee. And so we'll do the same variation as we did last time, but if you'd like, you can tuck under the toes behind you and lift the back knee. So see, we're coming off the floor. To aid in balance, you want to have your feet nice and wide on your mat, so about hip width apart. You might need to step your back foot forward or backwards. Find your right balance. Or if it's really a challenge, leave your knee down. So then same thing, hands can either rest on the knee or lift up towards the sky, keeping your hips level with the top of your mat. So pulling the right hip straight back. Big inhale. Big exhale. Shoulders dropping away from the ears. One more big inhale. Big exhale. Then hands come down. Step back to whatever neutral position serves you. So, downward facing dog, tabletop, child's pose, anything in between there. And then this time, left foot comes forward in between the hands. Same thing. You can drop the knee to start, finding your low lunge, taking an assessment of where you are. And then from here, maybe tucking under the back toes, lifting the back knee. Noticing how this changes the stretch, trying to make the tailbone really heavy here. And then, if you feel like you have stability, you can bring the hands up towards the ceiling. Big breath, slow ribs coming in. Chest is relaxed. Breathing deeply. And then we'll come all the way down. And then step back to whatever's neutral for you. Spend a moment there. Big inhale. Big exhale. Big inhale. Big exhale. And then if your knees aren't already on the floor, drop your knees. And then if you're not already in child's pose, make your way there with your hands behind you, palms faced, turned up. Big breaths. You can shift the hips from side to side here. We're taking all that big energy that we just gathered up and we're folding it in and down. One more big inhale and exhale here, imagining your breath expanding across the back line. And then relaxing, rebounding all the way back out. All right, so then from here we'll bring the hands up, pressing ourselves up to seated. We'll do one seated stretch here. So we'll bring the feet up. We'll come into cobblers. So if you have tight hips, sore knees, find a way to support yourself with props underneath the knees that float, or if it's really uncomfortable to have your feet this close to you, this high up, you can even sit up on a block or on the edge of a blanket. So we want the pelvis to be neutral. We want it to be feeling easy to at least sit up. Take a moment here, breathing all the way in, all the way out. And then when you're ready, we'll come forwards into a forward fold. Deep breaths. One more big inhale and exhale here. And then we'll inhale, come all the way back up. We'll move our props out of the way. We're going to work our way towards reclining. So bringing the feet up towards the top of the mat and rolling all the way back. Nice and slow. You can bring your knees in, give them a squeeze. Deep breaths as you inhale, feel your back pressing into your mat underneath you. And then when you're ready, you can extend the arms. Take your knees, drop them over to the left. Big inhale all the way in. All the way out. If you need to, you can bring a block under both of your knees or just put a block in between the knees. Head can gaze off the opposite shoulder. And then when you're ready, we'll inhale, draw the knees back to center. Exhale, drop them over to the other side. Same thing, you can drop the knees onto a block or put a block in between them. Turn to look over the opposite shoulder. And then when you're ready, knees draw back in. And then we're going to come in for Shavasana. So whatever that looks like for you is fine. Just make sure that you are covering up if you need to, particularly over the hips. So we did some stretches there. I want to make sure that we're keeping the heat in as much as we need to. So once you find your Shavasana, today I'm taking traditional Shavasana, arms and legs extended, palms face up. Take a few breaths all the way in, big, big, deep breaths all the way in, all the way out. And then relax your breath control. Watch your breath move naturally, unhindered. Again, noticing, comparing to the beginning of class, if there are any areas where the breath still is having a little bit of trouble moving into. Hopefully those have reduced since the beginning of class. You have a little bit more breath space. And notice as you exhale, if maybe you're able to expel a little bit more air. You might be able to hear Scooter snoring. And if that's the case, don't worry. Stay with your breath. Following each inhale and each exhale. And of course, you are always welcome to stay here as long as you wish. So if you'd like to end with me, start to find small movements in fingers and toes, wrist or ankle circles, a roll of the head or a stretch of the arms. Whatever helps you feel at home in your body. And then whenever you feel ready, you can slowly work your way off to one side, taking a breath, feeling the expansion of the rib cage on 3 sides of the body, and the support of your mat on the 4th. And then when you feel ready, slowly working your way up to seated. So thank you very much for practicing with me and testing your balance, building a little heat, and then hopefully bringing it all back in so that you can take that energy with you for the rest of your day, evening, wherever you happen to be. So as always, thank you very much for practicing with me today. Take care. Namaste.